the announcements are getting more dire. And part of the reason I feel the need to cover this is because a lot of your mainstream media fucking won't. And if they do, it's a little blip on the radar. They'll give you a little 12-second blip about the most important news story facing all of us. And then they move on with how Trump had a funny photo with a good deal. The UN is announcing climate breakdown, where they're officially calling it climate breakdown after yet another record summer of heat. Scientists blame ever-warming human-caused climate change from the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas. And by the way, if anybody would like to try and claim that this is false or a scam or anything else, I got bad news for you. The number of peer-reviewed scientific articles that say man-made climate change is real is 99.7%. 99.7% of every peer-reviewed scientific study, report, article that has ever been put out or published says man-made climate change is real. So you'd have to say that this so-called scam has been coordinated with essentially every scientist, 99.7%, essentially every scientist around the world, just about every government around the world, because really there's Republicans in the United States, and by the way, the Democrats are equally awful, but you'll hear why I'm pinpointing Republicans. Republicans in the United States are just about the only large-scale political party in any country that still denies that climate change exists. Now, the Democrats are doing fucking nothing about it. So I'm not giving them a pass, which is almost worse. To understand it exists and do nothing about it is almost fucking worse. I'm not giving them any pass. I'm just saying this shit is... You'd have to assume that all of them work together. Every scientist around the world, with the exception of that 0.3%, which, by the way, the 0.3% or less than that really are very popular on YouTube shows. They found the one guy who's just like, it's not real. I don't know. So that is one hell of a conspiracy, my friends. Every scientist around the world, every government around the world, with the exception of the United States, maybe there's one other. I don't know where they are. Maybe there's one other. And every large-scale political party, with the exception of Republicans, all saying this is happening. I'm not saying that a lot of these countries are doing shit about it. I'm just saying they acknowledge it's real. And all of that had to be coordinated. That would be a fucking... I would not want to be on that Zoom call to coordinate that. Climate breakdown has begun. The United Nations chief has warned, as the World Meteorological Organization reported that the world went through its hottest northern hemisphere summer on record. The WMO, citing data from European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, said on Wednesday that the last month was the hottest August on record by a large margin and the second hottest ever month after July 2023. August is estimated to have been about 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial average. It also saw the highest global monthly average sea surface temperature on record, nearly 21 degrees Celsius, 69.8 Fahrenheit. Scientists blame ever-warming human-caused climate change on the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas, with an extra push from a natural phenomenon, El Nino. So they're not saying El Nino isn't a factor. They're just saying it's El Nino's added an extra push to human-caused climate change. And let me just say also that, look, I get it. For those of you who want to pretend it's not happening or it's not real or whatever, I get why you feel that way. You're scared, and makes you feel good to tell yourself this isn't real. And I get it. It's better, though, to face reality, to deal with the grief, to sit with it, and then to get active on changing this world. Uh, but yeah, I understand that it's scary, and some people just kind of go the childish route of like, it's not real, and then they cover their eyes and they hum a happy song to themselves. I get it. I get why you want to do that. And then you find the fucking lunatics on YouTube who will agree with you and are scared with you. And so they tell you it's not real. And then you go, yay, I feel better because that guy said that thing. But you should just know that you're going against 99.7% of every scientist in the world who has had a peer-reviewed article or study on this topic. And peer-reviewed is very key because, yes, big oil will buy out some scientists. And there are some scientists that have very official titles. And they will say, it's not happening, or it's not real, or the climate has always changed. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, the climate has always changed over millions of years. At the quickest, hundreds of thousands of years. Now we're doing it in like 12. So I get it that, that you want to believe those things. But in terms of peer-reviewed, in terms of actually going through the process of the scientific community looking at these studies, at these papers, and deciding whether they're accurate, you got 99.7%. All right. So, and here's another story on that front. Scientists are now warning that 1 billion people are on track to die from climate change in the next years. Fossil fuels that humanity burns today will be a death sentence for many lives tomorrow. A recent review of 180 articles on the human death rate of climate change has settled on a deeply distressing number. Over the next century or so, conservative estimates suggest 1 billion people could die from climate catastrophes. As with most prediction for the future, this one is based on several assumptions. One is a rough rule of thumb called the 1,000-ton rule. Under this framework, every 1,000 tons of carbon that humanity burns is said to indirectly condemn a future person to death. So yeah, they go through the ways they were able to calculate this. But the reason you don't actually hear more coverage about this story, and like I said, CNN or the other, fucking liberal outlets, they will cover it, but it's pretty light considering it's an existential fucking threat. You compare the coverage of climate change to the coverage of a million other things, Trump indictments, Ukraine war, Joe Biden saying this or that. It's nothing. It's borderline nothing. So the reason they're not really treating this like an existential threat is because they are funded by big oil, massively funded by big oil. Big oil owns our government. They own our media. BlackRock, which is the third largest owner of every media outlet you can think of, BlackRock and Vanguard, they have tons of money invested in fossil fuels and deforestation and other forms of climate crisis causing ventures. And they also own the media channels. So, of course, these media channels cannot and will not go after these things. But then beyond all that, you have the petrodollar. The U.S. power and energy comes from the dollar being the global reserve currency. And that is due to the fact that oil is mostly bought and sold in dollars. And, maybe BRICS will change that, but that's still the case right now. So the U.S. needs massive use of fossil fuel to continue, even though we're on the path to killing 1 billion people with climate change and to causing whole nations to go underwater. like the Maldives, isn't that one of them that's going underwater? Um, so, and you know, they're funded by the big banks, which are also heavily invested in all of these fossil fuel companies. So, yeah, that's why you're not going to hear this from our media, and you might hear little blips here and there again, but not a lot, and that's why I'm going to keep covering it.